Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something that looks pretty shiny on the outside, being an expat professional over in Asia.
Yeah, but like the research shows, and like you said, it's a real double-edged sword, isn't it?
Definitely. We've got some material here that paints a really complex picture. Lots of contradictions.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack that for you sort of quickly, get past the glossy images.
Yeah, move beyond the brochures.
Exactly. And dive into that core tension. These amazing, high-paying jobs tangled up with some serious work demands and this kind of hidden mental health side of things.
So we're talking big careers, but maybe requiring crazy overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe feeling totally alone, even if you're surrounded by people.
That's a big part of it.
Plus this constant battle with paperwork and admin stuff, just adding anxiety.
Precisely. We want to pull out the key takeaways, the money lure, the day-to-day stresses, and the psychological costs that a lot of these globally mobile professionals face.
Okay, let's start where most people probably start thinking about this. The money. Because, moving halfway across the world,
Yeah.
it usually comes down to the paycheck, right?
That's the main driver, for sure. The data we looked at is really clear on this. For certain jobs, specialized roles, the salaries in Asia Pacific can be way higher than back home.
We're not just talking a bit more to cover living costs.
No, it's often a massive jump. A real chance to build some significant wealth, actually.
And the research pointed to specific examples, didn't it? Like airline pilots.
Yes, exactly. Pilots are a prime example. Asian airlines are actively, even aggressively, recruiting foreign pilots.
And the packages they offer are designed to be tempting, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. They're structured to really pull people in. We're seeing things like huge signing bonuses. Sometimes they cover school fees for kids. Sometimes they even handle the taxes for you.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes the whole package incredibly attractive from a purely financial standpoint. Sounds like a shortcut to getting seriously wealthy.
Okay, but here's where, like you said, the double-edged sword comes in. It's crucial to look at the fine print, right? Because those amazing salary figures you see advertised, they often depend on one big thing.
Maximum overtime. That's the kicker.
Wow.
That dream salary. It's not usually for a standard 40-hour wint. It's the reward for working really grueling, intense schedules. Pushing the limits, basically, to hit those advertised numbers.
So the trade-off is immediate.
Yeah.
Make bank, but potentially sacrifice your time, your energy, maybe even your health.
That's exactly the pivot point. Wealth versus well-being, almost.
Let's stick with the pilots for a second. What does that intense schedule actually look like for them?
Oh, the materials suggest they're often on these rotational rosters designed purely for maximum efficiency. That means very little time back at their home base, wherever that is.
And almost no real downtime between long flights crossing multiple time zones.
Right, minimal rest. The documents we reviewed talk about widespread fatigue being a result.
Which isn't just about feeling tired, is it? There are bigger implications.
Absolutely. Beyond the personal cost, just feeling wrecked all the time, the material points out this raises serious safety concerns.
Yeah, you can see how chronic exhaustion in that job would be risky.
It's a tangible consequence of prioritizing, getting the planes flown over proper rest and recovery. It's more than just being tired. It's this constant grinding pressure.
Wow. Okay, so you're physically drained from a high-pressure job. But the sources suggest the exhaustion doesn't just stop when you clock out.
No, it doesn't, and this is really important. That professional fatigue gets layered with all these other stressors, cultural ones, bureaucratic ones.
The invisible drain you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It adds these extra layers of mental difficulty to just living your daily life.
Tell us more about that, the administrative stuff, the cultural bits. What does that actually feel like day to day?
Well, think about just trying to manage basic life tasks. Even in big international cities, you can run into significant language barriers.
Right, not just ordering coffee, but dealing with banks or utilities or schools.
Precisely. And then in the workplace, management styles can be totally different from what you're used to. Workplace expectations, too.
Leading to constant little misunderstandings, frustration.
Yeah, low-grade friction, you could call it. And then there's the official stuff.
Visas, permits.
The constant need to navigate visa renewals, maybe complex rules about crossing borders if you live in one place and work in another, even just local admin processes.
And the paperwork is probably not in your first language.
Often not. The rules might seem unclear or changeable, and there's this underlying uncertainty. Will this get approved? Will there be a problem?
So it's not one big crisis, but this sort of constant low-level hum of anxiety and difficulty.
That's a good way to put it. It just drains your mental energy over time. It's really the opposite of the smooth, easy transition that's sometimes promised.
Okay, so mentally drained by logistics, physically exhausted by work, which makes the next major point from our research even more impactful: the isolation.
Yeah, this one really stands out. The contrast between what you see online and the reality on the ground can be huge.
You mean the Instagram versus reality thing?
Exactly. Social media shows vibrant expat parties, busy city life. It looks like a nonstop social whirl.
But the research says different.
The research indicates many expats actually struggle with deep loneliness, profound isolation, even when they're literally surrounded by millions of people.
But why? If they're in these big hubs, presumably there are other expats, clubs, ways to meet people. Why the persistent isolation?
The sources really point to what they call the transient factor. Expat communities, especially in some parts of Asia, are just constantly churning.
People coming and going all the time.
All the time. 2-year contracts are common. People get transferred by their companies, or they just decide the lifestyle isn't for them and move back home.
So it's hard to build deep roots.
Incredibly hard. Think about the time and emotional energy it takes to build really meaningful, close friendships. It's tough to invest that when, deep down, that person might be gone in 6 months or a year.
So relationships kind of stay shallow.
Often, yes. Interactions tend to remain superficial. You have the same introductory conversations over and over. Where are you from? What do you do? How long are you here for?
Tiring, I bet.
It does. And the material mentions this deep longing for the mundane intimacies of home.
Meaning?
Missing those easy, established friendships, people who know your history, who you don't have to explain yourself to constantly. That sense of easy familiarity.
That lack of deep roots, that social impermanence, that sounds like a huge hidden cost.
It really is, arguably one of the biggest psychological challenges of the whole thing.
Okay, so let's pull it together. You've got the demanding job, the constant admin hassles, and this profound lack of deep social connection. It seems almost inevitable that this would impact mental health.
The cumulative effect is undeniable. The sources cite high rates of stress and burnout among this globally mobile group.
Higher than people working locally.
Significantly higher, according to some studies we looked at. Burnout rates are notably higher compared to local counterparts.
Wow. And the research also suggested it varies a bit by location. Like some regions in Asia are particularly tough.
Yes, there's some indication that feelings of detachment, self-doubt, maybe a more negative outlook are more pronounced in certain really high-pressure environments within Asia.
Okay, but then there's a twist, isn't there? Something called the vitality paradox.
Yes. This is fascinating. Here's the contradiction. Despite reporting these higher levels of stress and burnout, studies like the big Cigna Healthcare Vitality Study actually show that these same globally mobile individuals often report higher vitality scores.
Wait, what? Higher vitality, like more energy and strength.
Yeah, essentially. Measures related to pursuing life with health, strength, and energy. They score higher than their local peers on these metrics.
How does that even work? More burned out, but also more vital. That sounds impossible.
Well, if you try to connect it to the bigger picture, it likely points towards resilience, right? Resilience may be born out of necessity.
Meaning they have to be resilient to cope.
That seems to be the interpretation. That high vitality, that adaptability, it's what enables them to function in that constant pressure cooker. They're resilient because they have to be.
And maybe their sense of purpose helps, like the challenge itself, the opportunity.
That's likely part of it too. Deriving a strong sense of purpose from the whole overseas experience probably fuels that adaptability, that drive.
But, and this seems crucial, that resilience doesn't mean they aren't suffering, right? The sources stress that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It shouldn't mask the very real mental health toll. Their ability to adapt doesn't mean it's not painful or difficult.
It just shows how much internal strength is required to operate under those conditions.
Exactly. Which underscores the need for real, structured support systems.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, listening? Maybe you're thinking about taking that high-paying job offer in, say, Singapore or Shanghai.
I think it means you need to go in with your eyes wide open. That amazing opportunity, the salary, the career boost, it's real.
Yeah.
But you have to weigh it honestly against the sacrifices.
The potential for burnout, the isolation, the bureaucratic drag.
Yes. You need to be prepared to actively manage those things. Set boundaries around work, consciously build a social life, and just accept that some things will be frustratingly difficult.
And there was one final point in the research, something about the lines blurring between work and life.
Yeah, this really ties it all together. The note suggested that for many expats, work doesn't just become their job, it becomes their main source of social connection, their identity, even their sense of purpose.
Which sounds dangerous.
It is, potentially, because if your whole social structure and sense of self is tied up in your job, what happens if there's professional stress or a setback?
It hits everything at once.
Mhm.
There's no safety net outside of work.
Exactly. Those deep-rooted relationships that might normally buffer you just aren't there in the same way.
Right. So the final thought we want to leave you with, based on all this, is about support. If you're an employer sending people overseas, or maybe you're living this life yourself, what does real support look like?
It clearly has to be more than just good health insurance and a decent salary, right?
Yeah. It seems like it needs to fundamentally address that work-life balance issue, and maybe even find ways to help people build stronger, less temporary social connections.
Making sure that chasing the opportunity doesn't end up costing you your overall well-being, that feels like the core challenge here.
A really important point to consider. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.